up, chat? Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another Trek the Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation novel series. We're on Redundant Reincarnation, Volume 1. And my gosh, already losing a lot of the tears. It's so funny that last week I was legit going, the next week we're going to talk about Norn. We're going to get into Norn and her relationship. And sure enough, first chapter says Norn's wedding. I'm like, yep, there you go. I called it. I called it. I did recall seeing a bunch of people in chat the other day going, yep, there it is. He's seen it. Y'all can't keep your mouth shut. Y'all knew it was coming. But yes, as per usual, greatly appreciate you guys' support, your kind words, everything. Hey, chat, welcome to the premiere. Thank you, everybody that dropped by for the premiere that's in the chat there. You guys are freaking amazing, especially those that come in early. All those people that come in late, it's fine. I forgive you. But all the early chatters, those are the real people there. I'm just joking. But yes, I greatly appreciate everybody. Those that come by during the premiere, those that come late to the premiere, those that sneak into the premiere while they're working and all that kind of stuff, and those that come by for the VOD later on. Your guys' continued support has made this journey absolutely fantastic, and I cannot express that enough. That's why I say it every single Mushoku Monday. I want y'all to know I love y'all. But yes, as per usual, greatly appreciate those that support the channel monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships, all that stuff. Last week we had Silver with a super, Dila with a super, and Roy's Moist with a super. Thank you guys so much. It means a great deal to me. It's you guys that keeps the lights on. But yes, with all that said, we just jump right into it because we have a lot to go through. I have already read all of Norn's part 1, 2, and 3. Now, the problem is that it's pretty darn long. And while I know that some of this is going to be pretty easy to get through, there's some that I do want to chew into quite a bit. So I'm hoping to get through all of Norn's storyline in one Mushoku Monday, but it might turn out to be 2 Mushoku Mondays. As usual, I don't want to kind of force myself to kind of rush through it. I want to dig into things as I see them pop up. There's a lot of stuff around Aisha, like specifically, and I'm like, okay, this is going to take some talking. So we'll just take it as we usually do. If it ends up being 2 parts, we'll do 2 parts. But with that said, let's just jump right into it. Kicking things off with Norn's Wedding, Chapter 1, Norn's Betrothal, Part 1. Chapter 1, Norn's Betrothal, Part 1. A few months after the battle in the Behavioral Kingdom, the man god kept quiet after what happened, and as time passed, no new enemies had made themselves known. That didn't change Reese's job, though. He quietly kept up his travels, laid groundwork for the war to take place in 80 years. Even so, he had been at home a lot lately. As it turned out, Edison and Roxy were both pregnant at the same time. He kinda cut loose after defeating Geese. While he was happy the way things turned out, it was said that pregnancy would weaken destinies and made them easier targets for the man god. So while his wives were pregnant, he wanted to be at their side as much as possible. In the meantime, he spent his days processing intel that came in for the mercenary band, met with Orsted to discuss moves, and had long overdue family time. This was a story of one of those days. Orsted and Rudy were having a meeting about their next destination. It was something about how the next in line for the throne of that kingdom was still young, yet promising. It seemed like a good idea to start putting things in motion now, so they can put them to use later on. Orsted stayed silent without offering any comment on how to win over the next ruler. Rudy figured that he must have his reasons. Maybe there was some person that was a key to pulling this off that wasn't in the loop. Or it could be that Orsted thought that there was no surefire way to do it right now, so they should wait until a later time. As Rudy wondered what to do, he looked over his notes. Have Norn Grey Rat get married. Looking back at this now, it makes me think that like the entire time that Reese is talking about this next ruler and stuff, what we should do. I wonder what we should do. Hey, he's not saying anything. Maybe there's something that's not in play yet. Maybe somebody died that shouldn't have died, so he's trying to figure out like how he can push this person into rulership without that piece of the puzzle. Or maybe it's just not time yet. And the entire time, Orsted's over there going, I miss that girl. She was such a good friend. Norn needs to get married. Which is so stupid because this is like one of those, God, I forgot that Rudius does this, where it's like, we have an entire chapter where Rudius is completely just taking this down some rabbit hole, and it has nothing to do with it, and it's like, shut up, Rudius. Like, I'm back at that point now where it's like, oh good, I can cut out all this stupid inner dialogue because it's just so repetitive. I will say, one of the few things that I absolutely hate about Rudius is how, like, repetitive he gets in his inner dialogue. It's like, shut up, dude. Shut up, dude. And how stupid he is about stuff. It's like, why would you come to that conclusion? God damn. Anyways. Have Norn Grey Rat get married. What? Out of nowhere, Orsted broke his silence with a bizarre statement. Although Rudius was being careful with how he spoke around Orsted, he still almost blurted out, "What the hell are you talking about?" It was that jarring. They were considering how to win over an amazing heir. What Orsted said was totally irrelevant. But then Rudius questioned himself. Do you mean a political marriage? It was the only thing that made sense. I mean, I get where he's getting this conclusion, don't get me wrong, with the idea of them talking about how they're going to win over this guy, and then he just randomly blurts this out, and it does get in that later on, like, Orsted, you gotta learn when to bring things up. Like, you gotta learn how to pivot the conversation and not just drop a bomb in the middle of a conversation.
I wouldn't call it political, but when I consider the future, well...
So you're saying I can't do it alone? This was frustrating to hear. It meant Orsted decided Rudius couldn't talk this person into their alliance. He wouldn't have minded if Orsted said that outright. Hell, even Rudius wasn't confident he could do it himself. He had no idea what he could even say to sway this person. If he were a skirt chaser like Paul, and the only way was to give him a woman, then Orsted's proposal would have made sense. But Norn was out of the question. Rudius knew that Norn would get married someday, but there was no way he would give her over to a womanizer like Paul. Norn had to marry someone more earnest, and he had to approve that person. Otherwise, he'd never be able to face Paul again. He'd never cast aside family members for the sake of a goal, no matter how lofty. Good boy. Rudius, good boy. W. Rudius. And he's expressed this before. I think they've talked about this several times with Aisha and Norn, is the idea that he would never do something like this to them. Let them choose.
No.
Then why?
The child of Norn Greyrat was a help to me.
Help? Okay, see, here's the thing. Right here, he's already established this is something completely different. Like, the moment that I read that line, I'm like, okay, then Orsted's not talking about this situation. Then Orsted's not talking about this. Help? So this has nothing to do with Norn? You need her child?
I do not need it. The child will not be of great importance in this loop.
Orsted was dancing around the point. He always spoke in riddles, but based on their other conversations, Rudius got the gist of what he meant. Basically, this was groundwork. Norn's child would not be important, but it had been useful to him in the past loops. So he would make the play just in case, or something like that. Well, again, and since my assumption already kind of goes to, again, the idea of her getting with Ruijerd, since, you know, based on the previous Mushoku Mondays, based on the idea that I'm like, okay, the whole Burial Kingdom stuff, it's going to be Ruijerd. And the fact that Ruijerd is now safe, and the suitors are safe, it means that this child will not be as useful. That he needs the child to fight Laplace, and that's a lot to do with the fact that they know how to see their weakness, their weak point to strike it, that they no longer need that child anymore because they have plenty of suitors to work with here. So it made sense to me when I read this. It makes perfect sense that, like, I no longer need her. It's not that important anymore. Very well. Rudius stood, looked down at Orsted. He wasn't wearing his helmet. He had the same scary look as ever, but Rudius bet his own face looked even scarier. If you're going to assist on this, then come to the Northern Forest at noon, 3 days from now. Again, it's like one of those, chill out, Rudius. What the hell are you talking about? Chill out. Fear not, Norn. Rudius shall defend her virtue. He would stand his ground, even if he had to face Orsted. And it's kind of nice how much Orsted cares for Rudius and cares for his family, because this is a challenge. And if it was anybody else, Orsted would kill him. Paul, give me strength, he thought. Give me the strength to vanquish this mighty foe and live to tell the tale.
Wait, you misunderstand.
I do?
Even I, in the course of this endless repeating 2 centuries, have people for whom I care. Norn Greyrat's child is one such person. She has helped me, coming to my aid time and time again. It is for this reason that I wish to grant her life in this world. As things are, this shall not come to pass.
Damn! I don't think he's ever said that before. Am I wrong? I don't think he's ever said that before. There always seems like a massive disconnection. I can draw conclusions. There's times where I feel like it implies stuff, but it has never outright had Orsted say, this person is special to me. I want them to be in this loop. Because the idea here is that he's been through all these loops over and over and over again, and he's, again, seemingly disconnected himself from ever really making connections. And that's really why Rudius is so special, is because at the end of that entire battle in Burial Kingdom, the conclusion that he comes to is that I want to stand at the side of people. I want to have allies. I want to fight alongside you guys. I want this to be a thing. It's always been solo. He's always been so solo. But right here, they're talking about future plans. Ruijerd is going on with all this information that he has about this king or about this possible person for the throne. And what Orsted's thinking about the entire time is, things are going well. I want her to be a part of this loop. We're not resetting anymore. This could possibly be the last one. I want her to be a part of this where we succeed. I want her to be in this world. He's never, I could be wrong, but I don't think he's ever implied this before of wanting somebody to be there, of having somebody in one of his past loops that's special to him. That, to me, says that she's really special. This is a really, really special person. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. But yeah, the question mark there obviously is, why does Norn Greyrat always have this child, but this time it won't come to pass? Why is this time so different for Norn Greyrat that for once she does not bear a child? Obviously, the biggest thing here is the displacement incident. Before, she probably grew up, I think he gets into it, before she grew up in Buena Village and at some point ends up meeting Ruijerd up north. But this time, she gets displaced and she's so focused on her father and trying to get home. And then finally, when she gets home, there's this disconnect that happens between her and Ruijerd. I'll get into it more later on, but it just seems like, yeah, obviously the displacement incident was the big breaking point. And I think a lot of her experience with her father is the breaking point. She grew up so different in this timeline than the previous. It was true that Rudy never saw Norn with boys. She'd graduated, but she was still living at home, same as ever. That wasn't to say that she was freeloading. Through school connections, she'd joined the Magic Guild and was doing clerical work at the Central Branch. There was plenty of guys at the guild, but Norn didn't seem to care for them. She never went out, even on her days off. Rather, she was always at home, helping with the kids and the housework. Even as a student, Rudius didn't think that she dated anyone. Honestly, though, she might go her whole life without tying the knot. In this world, people with status seem to do arranged marriages a lot. And while Rudius' status was a bit sketchy, it had provided him connections and influence. Maybe this wasn't such an outlandish proposal. Yeah, I thought about this right here, and I think it gets into it later on. That, yeah, there could be a side of it that Norn is just expecting that this is what Rudius is going to do for me. She's waiting for Rudius to choose somebody because Rudius is going to need her as essentially a political pawn. It's technically the thing that they do in that world. In this world, too, obviously. Okay, but a child isn't made by one person. It's not like any old partner will result in the same child being born, right? They were talking about a king, so he had plenty of status. But Rudius wasn't going to consent. Again, why are we going back to the king, Rudius? It's nothing to do with it. Not until he's seen the guy with his own eyes and checked out what sort of person he was. Or does this amazing heir become Norn's partner in the future? His expression was scary as ever, but Rudius had seen it before. It was the, "What the hell are you talking about?" face. I'm with Orsted. I'm with Orsted. What the hell are you talking about, Rudius? Rudius, shut the hell up. You're not listening. I'm not even talking about that. Close that book. Stop looking at those notes. We're talking about something. Sit down, boy. The ends of his eyebrows twitched as though in surprise.
No, forgive me. It's unrelated to that.
Huh?
This is another matter.
So this wasn't about our strategy for the next country? We're just talking about Norn's love life?
Yes.
When you change the subject, it's good to lead into it with something like changing the subject or, by the way.
This is true. I will be careful in the future.
With that smooth over, Rudius settled back into his seat. Collecting himself, Rudius got back to the conversation. So, who is it that Norn marries? Does she always marry the same person?
Yes, as far as I'm aware. Norn Greyrat's husband never changes.
That's some destiny. She got some strong destiny for that boy. So Norn and this person were destined to be together. Lucky bastard. Just living his life, and all of a sudden, he gets married to Rudius' Norn. If he turned out to be a lazy bum coasting through life, Rudius would kidnap him, straighten him out Spartan style. He made the guy do nothing but train all day. He'd straighten up his manners and make sure that he never cheated on Norn. At minimum, anyone who wanted to marry Norn had to take a punch from Edis without passing
Ruijerd Superior.
There it is. There it is. Confirmation pretty much at this point. Let's just put that confirmation on there. It's Ruijerd Superior. Every single loop, Ruijerd Superior. Rudius' thoughts screeched to a halt. He saw in his mind's eye the face of a bald man who lived around 500 years. Well, he wasn't bald anymore. A handsome man with a handsome head of green hair.
Their child becomes the last superb warrior. After Ruijerd succumbs to the plague in his later years, she carries on this quest to restore the honor of the superb, joining the human side to fight the demons. She is the one who deals the finishing blow to Laplace. Her fate is heavy, painful, and goes unsung by all. But in this loop, many of the superbs have survived. In all likeliness, no great burden will fall upon her shoulders.
Wow. Interesting. In the other loops, yeah, Ruijerd succumbs to the plague, and she basically takes the mantle. What Ruijerd was doing his entire life was in order to restore their honor. And with him gone, she's the only one who could do it. And that's basically what Ruijerd was doing. He wasn't even sure if any of the superb had survived. His whole life became, I want to reclaim the honor of the superbs. I want to save children, make people see them in a brighter light. And again, Rudy comes along and helps him find a better way of doing that. She took up that mantle. Just like her father did, she took up the same mantle. I know based on what my father told me that that's not what happened back then. And I want to restore his honor. And that's why she joins the human side to fight the demons. Joins them to fight Laplace, and eventually she will deal the, finishing blow on Laplace. Which again makes sense because that's what, Ruijerd did. Ruijerd helped them take down the demon god Laplace. And yeah, since there's so many other superbs now, she doesn't likely have to do that. Again, like he was saying earlier, it's likely that I don't need her, but I want her to be around. Because there's so many superb over there now, I don't necessarily need her, but again, that doesn't matter anymore. He just wants her to be in this loop. Because again, I think he wants her to be a part of this one where they finally complete it. They're not going to have failure. While Ruizd's mind sat frozen, Orsted's words poured out as he remembered the girl's life. If she defeated Laplace, she and Orsted had probably worked together. And if so, it made sense why Orsted brought this up. I'm trying to remember if they mentioned a green-haired person when Rudy was at the man god's side. I have to go back and look at that. I'm pretty sure it did. Well, it doesn't have to be there because technically that's the man god, not Laplace, but if she defeated Laplace, she and Orsted had probably worked together. And if so, it made sense why Orsted brought this up. But now what? It was totally different this time around. Rudy was here and the displacement incident happened. However, Norn and Ruijerd's relationship had developed in previous loops. If Rudy knew one thing, it was that in this loop, it hadn't blossomed into a love story Orsted knew. If he suggested marriage to Norn out of nowhere, she might just balk. It was a 500-year gap. It would probably confuse Ruijerd too. Rudy wouldn't complain about Ruijerd joining the family, but he couldn't just go making a decision like this himself. If you ask me, I think Norn gets the final say.
Very well. There is no rush.
Orsted answered with a nod. After that, he told Rudius about Norn and all those loops until now. In the world where Rudius didn't exist, Norn became an adventurer. On her adventures, she performed songs and wrote ballads as a bard who could sing, dance, and fight. She and others with similar interests formed a party and traveled around the northern continent. Her sword and magic skills were marginal at best. B rank was her limit. Because of that, while she was in the middle of a quest, her party was wiped out by monsters. Norn herself was inches from death, and then Ruijerd appeared. He tore through the advancing monsters and saved her life. For Norn, it was love at first sight. After that, she joined him on his journey to find the superbs. At first, Ruijerd hadn't been responsive. But then he discovered the superbs were wiped out by the plague and fell in despair. Norn devoted herself selflessly to comforting him, which won over Ruijerd's heart, and they got married. They began living together in the corner of the Behero Kingdom. After a while, they had a child. Then Ruijerd contracted the same disease as the other superb and died. Leaving Norn behind, she raised their child, then died of old age. It sounded like a lonely, bittersweet life, but Orsted said that there had been a look of content on her face, as a love story. It was hard to swallow, but what goes on between partners is something only they know. Interesting. So without Rudius around, goes up north, ends up becoming an adventurer, turns into see, it sounds like a dancer. She takes on the dancing job, just dancing around like a belly dancer and doing song. That's the mental image I had. It was like it's turning into a belly dancer. But no, becomes an adventurer, goes out there. They're not very skilled, gets wiped out, and Ruijerd comes and saves her. Now, interesting, yeah, obviously, because they're not there to cure the plague, he eventually finds the village, and then she's there to comfort him, but then he ends up dying from it anyways. And again, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's in Behero Kingdom itself, but still ended up dying. Which is interesting because that implies that in previous loops, the man god did not put enough into play to prevent them from having that child. Because the idea of why the man god was trying to wipe out their suitors was to get rid of that threat. So it does imply to me that there's a possibility that he was trying to prevent that as well. Prevent them from having a child. But I think the more interesting thing from this is really kind of analyzing what difference we have here. Obviously, the displacement incident. The displacement incident makes that big, jarring difference in the two worlds. But she still meets Ruijerd. That's the thing. She still meets Ruijerd. So what's the two difference here? With the previous timelines, it seems simply that she goes off and becomes an adventurer. She, goes through a lot of hardships. She fights for her own. She has a lot of independence there. I think there's a big significant independence there. She's on her own. There's no Aisha. There's no Paul. There's no Rudius. There's no other expectations on her. She's on her own, and the only expectations on her is her own party members, people that she's fighting side by side with. There's a lot of independence that she's gained through the previous loops. She's not under somebody all the time and constantly being compared. She's her own person. And I think that independence that she has with there, eventually leading to the idea that she loses everybody and now is in love with Ruijerd, she's able to push herself further and further and be at his side until eventually winning him over. She doesn't have anything else that she's going home to. She's not going home, okay, I lost all my party members, go home. Oh, I can't do this anymore, get a new party group. No, it's just focused on him. No other expectations placed upon her. Now, in stark contrast, we have the world with Rudius and obviously the displacement incident. The displacement incident happens. She gets displaced with her father. Her father's everything to her. She has nothing else. She's afraid and alone, and all she has is father to give her shielding and protection. Eventually comes in the picture with Aisha. Everybody's expectations for her with her grandmother and everything. All these things that feel into her brain, you are not good enough to be on your own. You're not strong enough. You're not talented enough. Ultimately leading to her coming, up to the north with Rudius, and still there, constantly seeing everybody, looking at her as less, that she's not adequate enough. Yes, eventually building up that she proves herself to a lot of people, and a lot of people rely on her, but there's always still that element, and we even see it in these chapters, of constantly, I'm not better than people around me. I'm not better than Aisha. I'm not better than Rudius. I'm not better than anybody else. There's so much on her head that she's not good enough. And so when she finally meets Ruijerd again, there's almost an element of, because she met him so much earlier, and she was a child, and right here she still has in her mindset that she's not good enough, and that she's like a child. I think it ultimately leads to her being unable to step forward and confess to him and feel that she can be at his side. Because even like what we see in the chapters in A Journey of Two Lifetimes, what is she thinking? Rudy said to go home. I'm going home. She didn't have to. With A Journey of Two Lifetimes, in those chapters, there was the chapter I think was Parting Gifts. With that chapter specifically, what does she say? Everything's wrapping up. Rudius says to go home, so I gotta go home. Girl, you're an adult. If you like Ruijerd, you could stay there. You don't have to go nowhere. You don't have to listen to Rudius. But again, in her mindset, all she can think of is, I'm not good enough. I'm not skilled enough. I can't be independent. I have to go home. Dad said to go home, basically. Time to go home. She lacks independence. Again, something she had in the previous loops was independence. She lacks that now. So she's just doing whatever she's being told. And again, the final element that I talked about earlier is the element in this loop. She has Rudius over her head. Not that he's intending on it. And again, he says it several times, even in this chapter. Not that he's intending on it, but as we'll find out later on, it confirmed my speculation. She views that Rudius, being in the position that he is, people around her tell her that she should expect that someday she will be used as a political pawn, that she will be married off to somebody for power. So she's already expecting that as well. So there's all these expectations and the lack of her own independence that's all building up to the idea that, yeah, it makes sense that she doesn't jump at going after Ruijerd, even though it seems like destiny is pointing that direction. Every previous loop, it feels like she has a strong destiny to be with Ruijerd. That's why he's bringing it up right here. For some reason, now, that destiny is being broken. And it's a lot to do with Rudius and the displacement incident. But I would argue mostly Rudius. Rudius is breaking her destiny. Again, without him knowing. I love this stuff. I told you earlier, I don't know if we'll be able to get through these 3 chapters because this stuff I eat up. We're back to some good eats. We're back to some good refrigerant eats. Things hadn't gone that way for Norn this time. Was it still okay to set her up with Ruijerd? Would she be happy with someone she didn't love? Would Ruijerd be open to it? There was no point in Rudy worrying about it on his own. The important thing was how Norn felt. She didn't show any signs of interest in boys, but she was the right age for romance. But Rudy had a feeling he wasn't the right person to ask her about these sorts of things. He couldn't see her opening up to him. Another woman would be better. Not Aisha. Not Aisha. He had a feeling if he sent her, it wouldn't end well. Sylvie or Roxy, maybe. Norm respected Roxy in particular, so she was probably best. Yeah, it was... Again, this is one of those moments where it's like, why do you feel like she has no interest in Ruijerd? You spent the whole time in Berhill Kingdom and she was glued to him. But yeah, I can seeing it as like a child to a father. Like she's falling around like a little duckling. Again, like jackhammering it in our heads, the entire Berhill Kingdom segment was, this girl is madly in love with a guy. Madly in love. Edis might work too, if they were talking about respect. She'd been teaching Norn sword work for a long time, but Ruiz doubted Edis' move list included indirect questioning skill. Then there was Sylvie. She had high to indirect questioning stat, and while it wasn't quite respect, Norn did seem to recognize Sylvie as the top dog of the house. In the end, Ruiz decided best to round up all 3 of them and discussed how best to tackle it. Maybe even include Lilia and Zenith too. As he mulled over this on the living room sofa, his eyes fell on Norn as she came into the room. I'm back, big brother. Welcome home. She'd grown up beautiful. She looked just like Zenith when she was younger, with sizable breasts and silky blonde hair. She'd probably been popular with the boys at school. What? Norn asked after a while. Why are you looking at me all creepy? He's staring at her. Nothing. Norn, want a cup of tea? Yes, please. He poured a cup and handed it to Norn before a dubious look came over her face. This is cold. What? He was sure Lilia made him a pot. Sure enough, the teapot was cold. He suspected someone was trying to attack him. Okay, dude, chill. Wait, a thought hit him. Come to think of it, didn't you have work today? Yes, I just got home now. Looking out the window, it was already dusk. His meeting with Orsted had ended. He returned home. Lilia made him a pot of tea, but then 2 hours must have passed. Right, sorry. I must have zoned out. I'd appreciate it if you wait until you were older before going senile. I'll make you another pot. Wait here, big brother. Didn't somebody else say the same thing? That they didn't want him going senile? Was it Norn? Did she say the same line twice? I seem to remember somebody saying that he's going senile too early. Like, poor guy's in his 30s. Chill. Is no one else home? Sophie and Edis left just as I came back to take the children for a walk. Lilia went shopping. Aisha? I don't know. She's probably still at the mercenary band, isn't she? Norn carried the teapot off to the kitchen. So no one was here. Just him and Norn. In a way, he couldn't ask for a better situation. He'd tackle this head on. If that didn't work, he'd move on to the next thing. That was how he'd be honest with Norn. There's no honesty. You didn't straight up say it. You dance around this subject the whole time. That's nothing. There's nothing honest about it. Norn wouldn't like it if he talked to her after he'd set up everything. In the end, she was the one getting married. He had to start with her. Here you are. While lost in thought, Norn came back and set a cup of tea in front of him. Thanks. He watched as she sat down opposite to him and took a sip. You've gotten good at brewing tea, huh? We learned how at school. Not from Lilia? Lilia, I don't think she would teach me. That was true. If she asked Lilia to teach her, she'd probably say that it was no need because it was her job. I mean, the easy answer there is just really saying, Lilia, I'm not going to be here forever. I need to learn how to make tea on my own. I'm sure she would help. Well, either that or she'll say, well, where are you going to have tea at? I'll come over there and set it up for you. Where are you having tea at? I'll set up for you. Well, I mean, when I get my own place, I'll come by daily to make you tea. I'm sure she would if you asked. Perhaps. But seeing as the school had a place to learn, I took advantage of it. Besides, I never had a chance to make tea at home. I guess so. Norn had the student council meetings and her room at the dorm. And now probably her workplace too. She seemed content with that. Now that Rudy had warmed up, he wanted a good way to broach the main topic. As he cleared his throat, Norn looked at him dubiously. Was there something I neglected? No, not at all. Very nice tea. Good tea. Good tea. Excellent. He took another gulp, the steaming cup. The flavor wasn't amazing, but it wasn't bad enough that he wanted to spit it out. It was ordinary, just like Norn. good, but not great. Nornal tea brand. It's the old good old Nornal tea brand. By the way, Norn, how have things been lately? What things? Well, your job, for example. How's that? Everything's normal. I said normal. Everything's normal. Norn said everything's normal. Everything's normal. A senior staff member is still teaching me the ropes, but I think I'm doing well enough. Of course, I'm sure Aisha will be doing far better. You gotta stop comparing yourself to her. Again, yeah, like still to this day comparing herself. Norn nodded obediently. Aisha had her own work. So long as they weren't doing the same job, comparing did no good. Now, the senior staff member, that's a thing, eh? Cool, I bet. What the hell is this? What the hell is this way of talking? Oh, very elegant. I think the two of you spoke once, Big Brother. You remember the deputy student council president from when I was president? The burly beastful kid? Not him, the woman. The name wasn't coming to him, but there had been someone like that. Actually, he felt Norn had brought it up when she got the job. Something about how they were in the same department. A woman, eh? Don't happen to be any men around, Of course there are. And are any of them, cool? Some are. Some are. Big Brother, what are you getting at? Calm down there, Norn. No need to rush conclusions. You're the one who doesn't look calm. Norn, for example, this cool person, how cool do you think he is? Are you asking me if I like him? Do you? He messed up. He asked her straight out. No, I can't say I do. He gave up. He's trying to dance around. He's like, whatever, just do it. Just pull the Band-Aid off, dude. Just pull it right off. So is there by any chance someone you like? Yes. You don't say. There is there? Well, you're a grown woman. Of course there is. Nothing strange there. No, sir. You, on the other hand, are being very strange. So, what's he like? The person you like. He's older. Uh-huh. I can depend on him. Uh-huh. And he always takes care of me. Ruijerd knew who she was talking about, based on those 3 criteria. Do you mean me? Is something wrong with your head? He got carried away. He's much older than you, Big Brother, and he never loses his cool in a crisis. He's composed and dignified. Lately, your Big Brother has stopped losing his cool in crisis. I don't think you get to say that, considering how you've been acting. By much older, you mean, what, 10 years older than me? Older. I didn't know you had a daddy complex. A daddy? Well, I do like older men. By this point, Rudy is, like at this point, Rudius, it's not hitting you. Just like mere months earlier, she's following around Ruijerd like a duckling. She's always talking about Ruijerd. It seems like she literally stayed in his home for like that entire time. And now she's saying that she likes somebody older than Rudius. Duh. Duh, dude. By older, he guessed she meant more than 20 years. That would put him in his 40s or 50s. Add dignified to that, and Rudius thought of someone on the heavier side. With a lower center of mass, you get a real sense of gravitas. Not that Rudius was anywhere near close to dignified in his past life. He was picturing something like an old guy with a greasy face who was the CEO of an evil trading company. Rudius wasn't about to criticize anyone over the age gap, no matter how you looked at it. It sounded like she was looking for a sugar daddy. He wouldn't stand for it. No, Ruijerd doesn't have any money, dude. But what if the guy turned out to be more sincere than he thought? Age gap was nothing, really. You couldn't judge people by their looks. But I've accepted that nothing will come of my love. Oh, is he married or something? No, he lost his wife. Lost? Ruijerd thought that it was a convenient way to say that he divorced her. Or maybe she just slapped him with the divorce papers. Ruijerd was working hard to avoid accepting the truth. Exactly. That's literally what it is. Literally what it is. Apparently, I reminded him of her. Ruijerd changed his mind. There was no way he would say something like that. That's one of the oldest lines in the book. A man capturing a younger woman and telling her that she looked like his dead wife. What else could it be? He was basically saying he was the sort of girl he could see himself marrying. But that didn't sound like a pickup line. Saying he'd never met a girl like her before would be better. Are you asking if I've been seduced? She put her hands on her cheeks that were a little flushed. Was she happy about the idea? That's right. Norn liked him, not the other way around. But Rudius felt like the guy was leading her on. There'd be a fight if he said anything right now. So he kept the thought to himself. Why all these questions all of a sudden? Anyways, huh? Well, you're up to something, aren't you? Norn glared at him. It was a look that said that she'd been honest, and now it was his turn. He hadn't expected her to be so open. He'd been happy just to gather that she liked someone from her reaction. Well, I don't want to bring it up right after what you just said. Okay. He leaned in slightly closer. She drew back in turn. The truth is, Norn, I've had a sort of marriage proposal for you. She froze for a few seconds. Her eyes were wide and lips pursed in a frown. It was like she was glaring at him. It's kind of frustrating because earlier it seems like he's avoiding the conclusion that is correct. But it just doesn't seem like it. He literally just does not get who she's after. And it's frustrating. With every single loop before, she always ends up with Ruijerd. In this loop, she's following Ruijerd around like a puppy. During a bloody, destructive battle of Ruijerd Kingdom, she's following him around like a duckling. She cried her eyes out, separating from him when she was younger. And it doesn't sink into your brain that this older person might be Ruijerd. He's so stupid sometimes. It's nauseating. Again, I cut out so much fat in here because this is stupid at this point. She froze for a few seconds. Her eyes were wide. Her lips pursed into a frown. It was like she was glaring at him. A proposal? Very well, I accept. No, I get it. Say no more. After what you said, let's pretend I never brought this up. No, like I said, I accept. He stared at Norn, the doubt probably clear on his face. And it's sad how easily she accepts this. When I read that, it hurt. No hesitation. Okay. If that's what Big Brother wants. Okay. And again, technically earlier she's saying, I gave up on it. It's never going to happen. Go ahead. It hurts. It gives the impression that with what everybody says around her, this is an expectation for her. This is her role. Big Brother has been taking care of me this whole time. He's done all this stuff for me. Now it's my turn to do something for him. If he says this, I'm going to do it. He's smarter than me. He'd probably know best. But you already have someone you like, don't you? That doesn't matter. After all, it's never going anywhere. Norn seemed to consider for a moment, then continued. We aren't nobility, but you have your status. And my friends told me that something like this might come along someday. Besides, ever since I found out that you have connections all over the world, I've expected to be used like this. Oh, ouch. Again. Dude. That hurts. And he gets frustrated in a minute, but that's kind of a low blow for him. I didn't say use. I'm not going to make my family into pawns. Speaking a little heated, Norn's eyes widened. Then she bowed her head. Of course, I'm sorry. She was such a good girl. Yeah, that's a hurt. I don't blame Rudy for getting a little heated there, because and again, that's just, it's not her fault, but it's not his fault. It's this aspect of this is an expectation for their position. That this day would come, that she'd be used like a pawn, because everybody does it, but that's like a massive, massive gut punch to him. Hell no, I wouldn't do that. Why would you think I would do that? What have I done in the past that gives you an indication that I would stoop to that? That I would use you like you're some sort of pawn? What in the past have I done that has given you the indication I don't care for your well-being? Norn, if you say you don't want this, then I'll ditch the idea. No, I'm not against it. The fact that you've come to talk to me must mean that this other person isn't a bad man, right? Well, I guess. He wasn't a bad match. At least Ruijerd didn't think so. They seemed to get along well during the battle of Ruijerd Kingdom. Ruijerd was an honorable man. Only, well, my heart isn't set on getting married. But I'm not dead against it either. I'd be grateful if we could pretend that it's never happened. Big Brother, if you'd do that for me, of course, if the other person insists, then you should go ahead with it. You didn't worry about me. Ugh. Norn looked away. She didn't seem to want it very much. She would do what he said, if he asked. That was all. That might be convenient for him, but not for her. I haven't run this past the other person yet, so it's fine. I see. Thank you. Reese apologized to Orsted in mind. If this wasn't what Norn wanted, then they would ditch the idea. Sorry, Orsted.
Fine. Just tell her who it is, Rudy, you dumb.
I can see Orsted outside the window from across the house. They're in the living room over here, through the door, through the entranceway, through the other door, to his office, to a window, to the fence. Orsted standing there like Hawkeye through the windows and the doorways.
Rudy, just tell her who the it is, you dumbass. You're so stupid.
Even I have problems talking, but you're an idiot. Anyway, sorry. By the way, what sort of person was it? Were they some sort of royalty? Or an Orsted noble? No, nothing like that. But you do know him, Norn. I do? Oh, do you mean Zenoba? Why would that be a political move? Why would Zenoba be a political move? He doesn't have the throne. He has no position. I don't think he's the marrying type. Zenoba was best left alone. Even with Julie blasting him with her love beam, he showed zero signs of interest in her. I think they kind of implied that before. I mean, she's like so like all over him, but I don't think they ever had like that love beam aspect. Much less Ginger. Poor Ginger. He probably planned on spending his life with his figurines. I have like totally a bad mental image of that, like Julie and Ginger getting together to craft a statue that they could. Anyways, moving on. It was Ruijerd. Before he knew it, Norn was leaning towards him, both hands on the table. There was an intense look on her face, which flushed bright red. She looked angry. What was this about? Had he said something to offend her? Norn, she probably like, God damn it, why did you say this sooner? Yes! Norn did seem to have a lot of respect for Ruijerd, so it seemed that she didn't think of him that way, after all. Hey, look, it was silly. Even setting aside that he's a different species, the age gap is too big, and even you... Please, accept the proposal. Norn cut him off, her voice brimming with excitement and delight. She's like, yeah! Rudy, what the hell, you didn't say that earlier? And horses off in the distance again, saying, I told you! As it turned out, or sure enough, the object of Norn's affection was Ruijerd. Apparently, she adored him since she was little, and that childhood crush had developed into romantic feelings. And while in the Behavioral Kingdom, she had reaffirmed her feelings. She was in love with him. But Norn, knowing Ruijerd's past, had assumed that he wouldn't reciprocate. She resigned to spending the rest of her life hiding her true feelings. Ruijerd put a hand on his chest. Got it. Just leave it to me. I wonder... That right there sort of adds another thing to my theory about why she didn't pursue him in this timeline. Again, the aspect that she has so little independence. That could be one. A possibility that in the previous loops, he never mentioned the idea of losing his wife. That he saved her life, she started following him around, he discovered the death of the Suitors, and then she was there at his side. He never, during this entire time span, mentioned what happened with his wife. That he lost his wife. He may have mentioned the story about the Suitors and how he's trying to reclaim their glory and that he's looking for the Suitors, but he may have never told her about his wife. Whereas in this timeline, he mentioned it to her, and thus she feels that that love will never happen because he loved before. Could be. Chapter 2, Norn's Betrothal. Ruijerd went to work, laying the groundwork for the marriage. Norn was on board, so now he had to talk to Ruijerd. Considering his age, Ruijerd ought to leap to the chance to marry Norn. Plus, marrying into the family would serve the Super too. Since days of yore, marriage often served to solidify alliances, and marriage between Norn and Ruijerd ensured that Supers wouldn't turn against the Dragon God. On the other hand, it meant that they wouldn't abandon the Super. It was a win-win situation. I thought this wasn't supposed to be political. Rudius, I thought this wasn't supposed to be political. Yeah, she's on board now, but you're still thinking about politics. He should be okay with it because of this. They should be okay with it because of it. You're already bringing... This is logical thinking. The idea that the Super would be perfectly happy with his marriage because it would be beneficial to them. But why is this your... Why? Why? Still, was it enough? And would it make Norn happy? If Ruijerd married her because he had to, would it be what she wanted? Could she hold back her tears when she realized he didn't love her? Currently, Ruijerd was responsible for the negotiations with the Behavioral Kingdom. That meant Norn would live in the Super village, at least after what happened there. All the villagers seemed to know her face and name. They would probably welcome her. But would she be able to cope, surrounded by people of different species, an entirely different culture from Shariah? Worst case, Norn might end up living alone in a nearby town. This worried Rudius, genuinely. When he asked his wives, Roxy said, It's Norn. I'm sure she'll be fine. Edis said, It's Ruijerd. They'll be fine. And Sylphie said, You're overthinking it. I like how it's like Roxy's like, it's Norn. Like, they're gonna be fine. And it's like, it's Ruijerd. It's gonna be fine. And Sylphie's like, whatever, dude. It's just, you're overthinking it. It's confidence in Norn, confidence in Ruijerd, and just literally Rudius, you're being Rudius. Putting aside what I was saying earlier about it being political, like what side would gain what, the aspect of would Norn be happy is important here. That part makes sense. If in this loop Ruijerd doesn't love her, then I'm just basically sending her off to be alone in a village. If Ruijerd loves her, that's fine. She can find plenty of happiness being in that house, having Ruijerd coming home to her, even if the village itself doesn't accept her. She's happy because she's with the one that she loves, and that person returns that love. But she won't be happy there if he doesn't return her love. Come to find out, Ruijerd doesn't even give a crap about her, still sees her as a child or whatever. She's going to suffer alone in that village. Even if the village itself accepts her, she's going to suffer being alone away from family in some other village of a different race, not really fitting that culture, and having a man that doesn't love her. But even if the village accepts her, and they all love her, if there's no love in that house, she's alone. Is this a good thing, basically? I get this part. That makes perfect sense. In a different place, different culture, that's worrying. That's honestly worrying. His wives were sure it would be fine, but he was still worried. He couldn't bear Norn being unhappy. If she ended up crying, he'd have to face Paul's resentful gaze in his dreams, while Zen sat at his bedside, slapping him in his sleep. Mom, stop. Mom, I need to sleep. Mom, I know. Mom, I'll fix it. Please, Mom, stop. Just go fix it, boy. Go fix it, boy. This is your fault. Because you were listening to Orsted. What do you think was going to happen? Mom, stop. Mom, stop. For their sake as well, he had to give Norn the best chance to be happy. But even then, it would be up to her what she did with it. He could trust Ruijerd, of course. He knew that even if he didn't truly love Norn, he would give her everything she was due as his wife. He would ensure she had no reason to cry. Still, he had to be sure. Maybe set up an event to nudge them together. He might be able to steer Ruijerd's feelings toward Norn and make sure that they would be happy. Yeah, even if Ruijerd does everything that he needs to do as a husband, if there's no love there, it would still be painful. With this in mind, he went to the superb village in the Brihil Kingdom. Just a few months earlier, it had been under heavy construction, but now it was back to looking like a village again. It was surrounded by a tall palisade, within which were houses and empty vegetable patches. When the superb warriors seen him, they bowed their heads. Ruijerd nodded back at them as a way of greeting before hurrying off to Ruijerd's house. Ruijerd's house was big, maybe because it was a fairly important person in the village now. Yeah, it had plenty of space for two and kids. He's already planning it out. Which room's going to be the kids' room? Ruijerd, are you home? Rudius. Ruijerd was sitting crossed legs in front of the hearth, his eyes shut as though he was meditating. Rudius sat down in front of him, kneeling. At that, Ruijerd opened his eyes and looked at him questioningly. What is it? Rudius held out a hand to him. Give me a moment, please. I'm working on what to say. He waits until he gets there. I'll figure it out when I get there. I gotta get there quick. All right. Rudius lapsed into silence, staring into the flickering flames for what felt like an hour. As strange as it sounds, he hadn't given any thought what to say. He knew he wanted to ask Ruijerd what he felt about Norn. The problem was how to say it. Want to marry Norn? Nah, he couldn't. Getting married and how he felt were two different things. That wasn't something he could forget. Rudius stayed quiet, but Ruijerd didn't try to make conversation. He patiently waited for Rudius to speak, as though they had all the time in the world. Rudius didn't know what he had to do for the day, but he was a busy man. He'd probably be like this for Norn too. Maybe Norn would get annoyed at him for it. Maybe she'd snap at him to say something. No. It's so funny because literally, I mean, it's obviously that seems like this is what something that Ruijerd is referring to. Literally from her perspective that we've seen previously. No. She liked this about him. He always just waited for him. Aisha would say, spit it out. But Ruijerd doesn't do that. But no, this side of Ruijerd was probably what Norn had fallen in love with. A person that you could be comfortably silent with was a rare thing. Though, for Rudius, it was a bit uncomfortable. He likes noise. It's like being noisy. Norn made me a cup of tea the other day, and she was actually quite good at it. Rudius fished for a reaction. Well, Norn's making tea. A nibble from Ruijerd. Maybe he was interested in Norn after all. Rudius wondered if he cleared the first hurdle. But if a guy says something after being silent for a full hour, of course you'd latch on no matter what. Rudius calmed himself. Conversation was about to flow. Apparently, she's always making tea at work, and that's how she improved. I see. I once drank tea that she made when she came to the village. It was very good. Ruijerd smiled at the memory. If he had her tea before, maybe he wanted to drink it again. Maybe he was thinking he'd like her to make tea for him every day. Chill, dude. Rudius struggled with how to ask the question. He wanted some options. Was this how Orsted felt whenever he talked to Rudius? Probably. Not only can she make tea, her cooking's not bad either. You tried her cooking? I have. Norn's home cooking? Even when Rudius himself had never tasted it? Rudius, you were there. I mean, one of the times that Norn had made food for Ruijerd, Rudius came in there and he ate it with him. And that's when Etolf showed up and everything. Rudius, you were literally there when she was cooking for Ruijerd and you ate some of it. You don't say. Rudius wondered what she'd cooked. Meat and potato stew? Curry? Beef stroganoff? He wanted some too. He wanted to taste Norn's home cooking. No, this wasn't about him. I don't remember what she made, though. I think it was just a simple soup. I want to say that was a simple soup. Yeah, it was just a soup. Just a soup that he made for him. Ruijerd said it wasn't bad, which meant that it wasn't a disaster. Maybe she wouldn't find her way into his heart through his stomach. But it seemed that she wasn't a total kitchen failure. He wouldn't see Ruijerd waste away after the wedding then. Has something happened to Norn? Ruijerd cut through his thoughts. He was perceptive. Rudius had come in here looking all serious and brought up Norn out of nowhere. It was an obvious thing to question. Yeah. No, nothing particular. It's just, making small talk. Still, Rudius didn't have the courage to ask him straight out if he liked her. What if he said that he didn't like her at all? That he couldn't marry her? And if he did, he wouldn't love her? Rudius couldn't help but wonder. It would be a major shock for him for sure. Rudius might start fighting right here and there if he said that Norn wasn't good enough. Norn is an adult and even has a job. But in some ways, she's still very much a kid. I mean, she doesn't seem to have any interest in guys at all. I sometimes worry if she'll find a husband, Rudius looked to Ruijerd. Maybe it was a bit too obvious, as Ruijerd looked suspicious. Is it not human custom for the choice of marriage partner to be left to the head of the family? Are you not the one who would choose Norn's husband? No. We're not nobility, you see. I kind of feel like it might be good for Norn to choose her husband for herself. Rudius stole a glance at Ruijerd, but his expression hadn't changed. No, there was a hardness on top of the suspicion now. Rudius wondered if Ruijerd thought that he was shirking his responsibility. I kind of wonder if right here he's sort of considering, I wonder if there's a jealousy. I wonder if there's like a little semblance in Ruijerd right here about jealousy. Like she's going to be with somebody else, not me. No, don't worry. If Norn brought back a good-for-nothing, I'd throw him out on his ear. I'd tell him, if you want Norn, you'll have to go through me first. I'm not about to hand over Norn to just anybody. Rudius rushed to make excuses. It'd be a disaster if Ruijerd thought that he was irresponsible just before offering him Norn. He couldn't think exactly how it would go wrong, but it absolutely could. You mean to say that anyone who wishes to take Norn for their bride must defeat you first? No, he doesn't absolutely need to be strong or anything, but it's just, how should I put it? Grit. That's it. I want him to show me that he's got grit. Rudius was a coward, but he didn't run. Anyone who wanted to marry Norn had to have the guts to stand and fight, even when he knew he couldn't win. That was it. Is that so? It is. Obviously, Ruijerd had nothing to worry about there. Rudius tried to convey to him with another surreptitious glance, but his face was immobile. The hard look hadn't wavered. Maybe he wasn't interested in Norn after all. It was probably only natural. To him, Norn was a child. Ever since they had met when she was little, she'd always been a weak child. And Ruijerd wouldn't lust after a child. He wasn't that sort of guy. Ruijerd, I'm just going to ask it straight up. Very well. Rudius still had to ask, just in case. Even if it ended up being too bad for Norn. He couldn't jump to conclusions based on only his expression. He chose to bite the bullet. How do you feel about Norn? Ruijerd was silent. He glared at Rudius, not saying a word, his expression hard as stone. Usually, Rudius would have expected Ruijerd to answer straight away. Did he consider her a child or an adult? Rudius steeled himself. Do you have feelings for Norn? Rudius had to be blunt. But, did he make a mistake? Maybe it would have been better coming from Norn. Ruijerd murmured. Then, as though making up his mind, he got to his feet. He took up his spear from where it stood propped up. Rudius, go out front. Rudius looked at him, not comprehending what he meant. In response to his hesitation, Ruijerd said it in an even stronger tone. Get out. All right. The intensity of his voice left no room for argument. Rudius readily obeyed. Yeah, I mean, you set that up, Rudius. You legit set that up. They have to be able to fight. All right, let's go. They left the superb village and walked about 15 minutes or so into the forest. Deep in amongst the trees, the forest suddenly opened up into a clearing. There, Rudius and Ruijerd faced one another. Ruijerd's expression had been grim the whole time. Maybe he made him angry somehow. It seemed like asking him if he had feelings for Norn, after all that talk, was a mistake after all. Maybe he thought that Rudius was offering Norn up for the sake of politics or something. This was Ruijerd. He'd be a man to criticize Rudius for not protecting her and using her as a pawn. He was reliable like that. You realized long ago then. This was unexpected. Rudy stared at him blankly. He wasn't sure what he was supposed to realize. Rudius was completely lost and confused. You're the only one that's confused about any of this stuff, Rudius. This entire chapter, you've been completely oblivious. We're going back to old, oblivious Rudius. The old, oblivious protagonist, Rudius. Realize what? There's no need to say more. Prepare yourself. Rudius didn't even have his eye of foresight open, and without it, there was no way he could keep up with Ruijerd. Yeah! Ruijerd was on him in an instant, sending him sprawling on the ground. Still, compared to a decade or so earlier, he was a better class of loser. His daily training regimen paid off. He was just barely able to react. Ruijerd's spear came slashing from the right, and he blocked it with his magic armor version 2 gauntlet. Ruijerd followed up with a low kick that Rudius raised one leg to block. Leaving him on one foot, Ruijerd twirled his spear around to take out his pivot leg with its butt. Well, Ruijerd pressed the point of his spear into his neck, looking down impassively. I give up. You win. Rudius had no idea what Ruijerd was asking. There was nothing else that could be said. He was pretty sure that Ruijerd wouldn't stab him through the throat, but he'd won. Was that good enough? Rudius was confused. If anything, I think it was me who wasn't good enough. It was sufficient then? What was sufficient? Look at Rudius! Rudius, please! What was sufficient? He'd knocked him down like nothing. He'd only embarrassed himself if he tried to say more. I think so. With that, Ruijerd drew his spear back. Rudius pushed himself up into a sit. Even he could tell how pathetic he must have seemed as he looked up to Ruijerd. Then, as promised, I claim your sister. Damn! When I read that earlier, I was like, damn! Just straight up. I claim her. She's mine. Claim? His sister's hand? Did he promise that? Rudius wasn't sure what they were talking about. The thread of the conversation had slipped away from him a bit. It was as you suspected. I would be bound in wedlock with Norn. Wedlock? Rudius desperately tried to remember what that meant. Right. State of marriage. Huh? So he loved Norn? Rudius thought. You mean you... About Norn? After a long pause, Ruijerd replied, I love her. Aww, because he looks just like his wife. It's cute. It's cute. Again, she basically was there at his side the entire time he was suffering and in pain and dying. Was it possible he was joking? Was he planning on having Rudius dress Norn up in a bridal kimono just to pop up and say that it was a prank? It'd be a crushing emotional blow. Norn might even take it to her bed. I'm guessing that means that she'd, get held up in a room again. This was the man god's plot for sure. Damn it all. Ruijerd was a disciple of the man god. Jeez. Are you joking? Is this some sort of prank? This is no joke. Ruijerd looked at him, a little offended. He never joked. And this was no exception. Since when? Since the Battle of the Brihil Kingdom, several months ago. She selfishly tended to me at that time. And again, exactly what Orsted said. What did Orsted say? In every loop, they end up together. And it always plays out the idea that she goes up there, he saves her life, and then she joins him, and at some point he finds his, all the supporter dead, and she's there, selflessly tending to him. Same thing. Selflessly tended to me. And again, the interesting thing to sort of see here is that this is a perspective of a guy that he loses everything because of what Laplace did, and he's on his own, and he thinks that all the supporter are dead, but he's hoping that somebody's still alive out there, because, some people kind of branched out before then. And yeah, there was a couple of warriors that seemed like they could have gotten away too. He was looking everywhere, but at the same time, he was trying to reclaim their honor. He has nobody. And so thinking on those previous loops where he has nobody, he's traveling around, and eventually he ends up saving her life. And she starts kind of falling around like a duckling even back then probably. And he probably doesn't understand why she's following me. Everybody else hates me. They all think I'm a demon and I'm evil. But she stayed at his side. And then he goes down this really dark place. And she's at his side. The only person ever around him that would stay at his side probably meant a lot to him. She's very different than anybody else. She doesn't see that prejudice or, again, that fear that was already kind of dredged up from the past. It was true. They were inseparable back then. Very domestic. But had it really been more than one side attachment on Norn's part? Rudius thought that maybe she hung around him, mooning over him while he was oblivious. I did not act on my feelings, of course. Interesting. So even back then, he had a love for her, but didn't act on it. Would he have acted on it if she hadn't been Rudius' little sister? I wonder. And again, going back to the idea that everybody has the assumption that Rudius is going to wet her off to somebody. Don't touch that. Maybe so. That was what happened in usual loops, according to Orsted. And then Norn would become a woman, a bride, and a mother. Yeah, again, a lot of my perspective on why it's so different this time than last time is because Rudius is there. And again, she lacks independence. But you realize, I see. I assume that's why you came here so abruptly and asked. Ruijerd was silent. It was a shock. All he knew was that Norn loved Ruijerd. He had no clue it was mutual. He had the perception powers of a brick. Duh. That's like those last 2 chapters is nothing but stupid Rudius mode. I iterate. It is my wish to take Norn as my wife. Ruijerd raised his spear to Rudius' neck. To that end, I have demonstrated my grit. So, a duel to show grit. But it was too easy. Everything was going too smoothly. Rudius wondered if it was a trap. Who was trying to trap whom? Rudius had no idea what was going on here. Just accept it, dude. Just chill and accept it. Is it all right with your last wife and your son? Because he didn't understand, Rudius decided to keep asking questions. I'm not clinging to the past. Good. Good. He's always been stuck to that past. And he's finally letting it go. Ruijerd had told him that he just hadn't met the right person. When Rudius didn't stand, Ruijerd stabbed his spear into the ground and sat beside him. Rudius shifted to kneeling, bringing their eyes to the same level. In other words, Ruijerd said that, then frowned and looked down, pressing his lips together. After he had shown up out of nowhere and exposed his true feelings, he'd made up his mind to go on the offense and show his mettle. However, he'd never been good with words. He was probably still working out what he wanted to say, what he ought to say. Maybe Rudius had rushed this. He didn't need to set up the 2 of them straight away, just because of what Orsted said. Maybe he should have thought up a more indirect strategy to bring them together. Like, have Norn kidnapped and ask Ruijerd to save her. No, that would only capture Norn's heart. So maybe lure Ruijerd into a trap. Norn would hate him for that, though. Again, you're overcomplicating it. You're overcomplicating it. I think, again, because of the situation with how different this loop is, I mean, Orsted said it. With how things are so different, it needed some sort of intervention to kind of nudge it. But I don't necessarily think it's such a bad idea just to go there and talk. I had expected to one day marry a human. What do you mean? Because of you, the Superb are recovering. The people of Brahiro Kingdom and the Ogre tribe have welcomed us warmly. As it was with the Ogres, one day, one of the Superb would form a bond of blood with one of the royal family or the nobility. It has been proposed that in that case, the first should be me. Huh. So they talked this over. That made sense. Ruijerd's position in the village was sort of an advisor to the village head. He was an old respected hero, like the village idol. Well, not really like that. Sort of like a guardian angel. He would marry some Brahiro princess or noblewoman. For the Brahiro Kingdom, that meant peace of mind, and the Superb would protect the kingdom. But if I were allowed to choose, Rudius, I would join your family. Oh, Ruijerd. We're going to love Ruijerd so much. Ugh. I have a duty. This is a responsibility of me as my position in the village. But I'd rather marry into your family, Rudius. You're more important than this kingdom. Rudius felt something warm blossom in his heart. The friendship of the Brahiro Kingdom would help the Superb. No doubt, it would help them even more than blood ties with Rudius' family. Not really. I mean, it's the same effect. It's the same effect. Brahiro Kingdom is afraid of Rudius and Orsted. It's the same effect. No doubt, it would help them far more than blood ties with Rudius' family. But Ruijerd chose his family. Chose Rudius. Aww. Well, not him. Thank goodness. he was about to turn into Girldius. Rudico. At that moment, something occurred to him. You're happy with Norn then? What do you mean? Ruijerd looked at him dubiously. Norn is, how can I put this? She's, well, pretty selfish. She sometimes says insensitive things without really thinking about the consequences. If, hypothetically, you had a fight as a husband and wife, she might tactlessly blurt out something about your past. He literally just said the reason that he fell in love was because she was selfless. But she's selfish. Ruijerd was silent. Rudius hadn't expected that to come out of his mouth, and he regretted it. He was here to support Norn. He needed to talk up her good points, but she did have shortcomings. I think he's well aware of all of this stuff. I think he's well aware of all this stuff. I think she has the hang of housework, but I can't say that she'll be good at any of it if it's her main occupation. She can learn, but she's not very good at applying what she learns or working things out, and she usually messes things up the first time. It's easy in Shariah, but in the Superb village, I'm sure there'll be a lot to figure out. She might be a real burden. Jeez, chill. Jeez. I mean, I can see a lot of things that Rudius sees will be things that possibly Ruijerd won't see. And so pointing them out is nice. Like, hey, this might not be something that's normal in your culture. Or you might miss this kind of stuff because, you know, you've always been a warrior. So keep in mind this stuff, but still. It's what relationships are about, Rudius. It's not for you to figure out. It's for them to figure out. There are other women of the marriageable age in the Rudius family. I hate this part. Like Aisha. To be honest, Aisha had more talent than Norn. She could do housework, and she could look after kids. There was nothing Norn could do that Aisha can't. This is such a bullshit moment right here. I hate this segment right here. That Ruiz is thinking about this stuff. Oh, what about Aisha? Maybe I could set him up with Aisha. She's much more talented. Norn's a failure. Everybody has stopped doing this. Everybody has stopped comparing the two of them. And he literally earlier said to her to stop comparing herself to Aisha. And he's legit doing it right here when he's just secured her future. He's still comparing the two of them. Stop it. Stop it. Ruiz can't help but wonder if he'd really be happy with Norn. He wanted to support Norn, but he also liked Ruijerd. He wanted the both of them to be happy. And that sucks to think that. I want to be happy, and Aisha's more capable than Norn is. So I want to support Norn, but I don't want her to be a burden upon Ruijerd. And it's like, then you should be really happy right now. The two of them love each other, and shut up. He's overthinking it. Obviously, he's overthinking things, but this segment really agitates me. He wanted them both to be happy, so he needed to be sure that neither of them would be dissatisfied. But that's a result of her doing her very best, is it not? Thank you. Thank you. And it almost feels like this is purposely doing this to set up that Ruijerd's a good person. To have Ruiz think of like these really nasty thoughts and doubts, and then have Ruijerd slip in and go, dude, it's okay. Ruiz, you have your doubts, but I don't. I know Norn. I know her strengths and flaws. Ruiz was at a loss for words. You do too, don't you? Of course. Norn had a lot of good points. Ruiz didn't know that much about what Norn was like these days, but she had learned to care about other people. People had stopped comparing her to Aisha. Apparently not you. So she stopped being unnecessarily servile. She didn't get hysterical as much, and she didn't fight with Aisha anymore. She was caring too. She didn't take the respect home with her, but her classmates and younger students admired her. She had lots of friends at her 15th birthday. Even now, younger students sometimes came by the house to ask Norn advice. She tried her hardest at everything. She'd never be the best, but she was competent. Plenty of things didn't naturally come to her, so maybe she didn't seem like that much of a catch. And when compared to Aisha, it was night and day. Stop comparing her to Aisha. Rudius, stop comparing her to Aisha. Stop it. But why compare them? I don't know, Rudius. Why are you comparing them? Norn worked hard and made steady progress. Then stop comparing them. She keep that up for the rest of her life because that's who she was. She was a good kid, a little sister that he could be proud of. Ruijerd knew how hard she tried, but he didn't need Rudius to tell him about her weaknesses or how hard she worked. He loved it all. Again, I think it's purposely doing this. It's like showing how nasty Rudius is just to show how great Ruijerd is. Do you promise to always protect Norn? Yes. He was firm. Of course he would. He would protect her till death parted them. I expect Norn will struggle after getting married, surrounded by people from a different race and separated from her family. Will you support her? Yes. Ruijerd vowed he would for the rest of his life. Do you promise to keep loving her, even when she gets sulky over nothing and says unkind things? Yes. He would. He would hold her through it. Norn follows Emil's faith. Do you promise to stay faithful? Yes. That one was obvious. Ruijerd wouldn't be swayed by a woman's charms. Yeah, he's not one for being swayed. Norn's even a bigger crybaby than me. You don't mind that. I do not. I would not give either of you a reason to cry. It was too late. Fat tears were streaming down Ruiz's cheeks. Ruijerd spoke little, but his eyes were clear. I do not mind. I understand all that. The memory of the journey through the central continent after the displacement incident came to Ruiz's mind. So long as he was with Ruijerd, he felt safe. No matter what monsters came after them, Ruijerd kept them safe. Admittedly, he had some weaknesses when he wasn't fighting monsters. But so does everyone. He's bad with people. It'd be fine if Norn helped Ruijerd in those areas. Given how she was now, Rudius was sure she could do it. I think they kind of match perfectly in the sense of kind of covering each other's weaknesses. If not, Ruijerd would never said that he wanted to marry her. The tension left Rudius' shoulders as relief washed over him. Take good care of my sister. Rudius bowed his head. It's good. It's good. I talked about previously in A Journey of Two Lifetimes. I think I talked about it during the Hero Kingdom stuff in the mainline series. It seemed like it was obviously beating a dead horse that, look at the two of them. They're obviously getting together. Andrew, hey, they're getting together. No doubt about it, right? I had a little mixed feeling there because, again, it started off as a admiration thing. And it's interesting to kind of see that through Orsted, we're seeing that this is a destiny thing, that they're destined to be together. They're always together kind of thing. So there's going to be obviously something that pushes them to be together. This idea that there's a possibility that when Ruijerd was traveling He just happened to come across her in the middle of the market, happened to come across her at the port town when he was with, she was with Paul and they were deciding what to do. He just happens to come across him. I think there is an element that's something pushing the two of them to meet each other. And so it's interesting to add that destiny value to it. But I think this whole 2 segments here really does solidify for me. I like this because, again, it does separate the two of them for so long. They kind of grow a little bit separate. And eventually she realizes by reconnecting to him, by wanting to repay him, by reconnecting to him, those feelings get turned to something more. It's reaffirming that wasn't just a random crush back there. No, I really do love this guy. And to see from his perspective that he sort of sees the same in her. He sees a value in her, what she did for him. And again, I think a lot of that ties into sort of partly that discrimination, but additionally just what all she does for him, the efforts that she goes through. And again, a little bit in there of that familiarity of seeing that she's somehow, very similar there. And I like that there's a lot of doubt in Rudius' mind here. It's him, obviously, as always, being Rudius and overcomplicating, overthinking everything. But there is a value here that, in the end, he just wants to make sure that, hey, you know what you're getting into. Just make sure to do this. That's all I'm asking. If she ever has a problem, help her. It's things that he knows the answer. He knows what Ruijerd's got. I mean, I like that. I like literally how this entire later segment, he's asking Ruijerd to do something, or if something happens, to do this. And every time he knows exactly what Ruijerd's going to say. I know exactly what he's going to say here, but I'm asking it anyways. I know exactly how he's going to respond here because I've been through that. I know he's going to protect her because he protected me. He's always protecting us. I know that this guy is going to take good care of her. It's good. It's good. Thinking back to the old day. Gotta get all emotional and get talking about the old days. He was always protecting them. Chapter 3, Norn's betrothal. I don't know. Hopefully we can get this last part. It's going to be a long chapter. This is a very long chapter here, though. We'll see. It could be a part. Norn was to marry Ruijerd. It all happened so fast. Ruijerd had asked her all sorts of questions, and she answered them honestly. Then, not even 10 days later, he set up a meeting between the two of them. Then and there, Ruijerd told Norn that he loved her and proposed. She felt like she was walking on air. I think we're only going to skip on that whole part, really? The arrangements went ahead for the wedding, which would be held in 10 days. Jeez, let's get this done. Let's get this done. Jeez. Hurry. Hurry, Orsted said hurry. Her big brother and Ruijerd were steadily getting things ready, while her only job was to make her wedding clothes with the superb women. The outfits were very superb style, like what Ruijerd always wore. The wedding was to be held according to superb customs. She'd always sort of liked the idea of a Mila-style wedding, but she wasn't unhappy about the superb style wedding. It reminded her that she was Ruijerd's bride, and all the Superds were wonderful people. She couldn't have asked for more. Besides, Ruijerd would have probably been uncomfortable with her kissing him on the forehead in front of people. That still happens. Spoiler, that still happens. No matter what came up, her brother told her to leave it to him, and she accepted it with gratitude, though she still did kind of want a Millis necklace. She thought about asking for one. After all, this was probably the last time that she could ask Rudius to indulge her. Yeah, pretty much. Spoil me. While she considered all this, she packed her room. It was the room that she had used ever since Ruijerd brought her here with Aisha. Honestly, after all this time, her dorm felt more like a home than here. Ouch. Ouch. However, as she packed, she realized that every item held memories. There was a figure of Ruijerd that Zenoba had given her. She had been so thrilled the first time that she laid eyes on it that she begged him for it. I seem to remember that. Yeah, I seem to remember that because it was the ones they were making for the books, and she decided to snag it. So I think it was one of those aspects of like, yeah, I realized that we did a good job of it because she didn't want anybody else to have it. It was one that Roxy was terrified of. It had sat in her dorm room until graduation. Gazing at the doll had become part of her daily routine. It didn't look exactly like Ruijerd, but you could tell it was him. Every time she saw it, she didn't miss him. Then there was a wooden practice sword that she used every day since Etta started training her. She hadn't progressed much, and she knew she had no talent for it, but she didn't mind. Swinging the sword around was fun. And it wasn't as though she wanted to be the strongest. I kind of wonder now if possibly her desire to swing a sword is partly because of her father and the idea that she couldn't help. And that whole situation, father's over there needs help and I can't do nothing and I have to rely on Rudius. And he's busy with his family and I don't want to, push that upon him. I want to be able to go help. And through the conversation with Cliff, she realized, okay, I got to get stronger so that next time when they do need help, I can help. And that kind of plays into the whole Beryl Kingdom stuff and why she could have won to help that situation. But there's a side of me that also kind of wonders if it's an aspect of, is the destiny pushing her to want to become an adventurer so that one day she'd run into Ruijerd. Besides, no one here in Shariah told her that she should give up if it didn't come naturally. Ruiz didn't, neither did Edis, Roxy, or Sylphie. Even Zenoba and Cliff didn't comment on it, despite how gifted they were. Norn now understood what a great kindness they had done for her, and how important it was to persevere. If not for how hard she'd worked, she could have never become a student council president. I think in the eyes of all of those geniuses that are around her, for her pulling that off is showing how talented she is, and how hard work can actually persevere. You achieve something that normally you probably never felt that you could. None of the student council members under her had any talent either. Some of the teachers called the first council of dunces since founding the university, but Vice Principal Genius told Norn the students are far more peaceful than they were when Ariel was president. Interesting. And I could see that being, and I mean, she gets into it in a minute, the idea of how, like, they better connect to them. Truly, there was less violence and crime at the school while Norn was president than there had been in Ariel's time. It was possible she was just lucky. But Norn wondered if it wasn't because none of them had any talent. The fact that they were dunces probably meant that they could relate to the average student's needs better, and the students were considerate of the student council in return. Maybe they thought they needed their help. The university had around 10,000 students, so all the students taking a little more care would do more good than just a dozen student council members trying their hardest. I can see both of those. Well, I mean, let's be honest. It's probably a big part of it. I think there is an element because of who Ariel was. It sort of creates that big gap in it. Like there's that idea of that is the pinnacle and the glory and the royalty right there, and we're never going to be that good. So it's harder for them to connect unless there is no connection, and thus there's less communication and whatnot. But I can probably see this because Rudius isn't there. Because Rudius isn't there causing problems. But I do agree with this mindset and the idea because they're so the same. I mean, it's like a political leader or something like that being from your towns, from your kin or something like that. You have that connection that's a little bit more easier to make. It doesn't feel like an unobtainable position. It doesn't feel like there's that disconnect there. And again, communication's better. They can understand each other better. The members of the council can understand the griefs and the issues they're facing better. That kind of stuff. Less is being handed to you because you're so talented and thus you know the struggles you're going to have. I can see all that. The idea of them feeling like they should do their part because the student council members are less talented, that feels a little weird. That feels a little weird. It's because they all wanted to support Norn, obviously. Norn never wore her school uniform anymore. It was in the closet. She heard that Nanahoshi had designed it. Before then, everyone wore different clothes. The uniform helped her make friends for sure. If they had worn different clothes, she'd never been able to relate to anyone on the same level. I agree with that a lot. Especially in this setting where you have a lot of people that are nobles and whatnot. They're going to be dressed all fancy and it'd make them more difficult to confront. She would have never been able to approach them. Though, she could be wrong. Aisha had copied the idea and brought the uniforms to the mercenary company. So it had to be a good sign that it was effective. Though her employing it was a sign that it was smart. Then there was her father's sword hanging on the wall. He had used that sword for years before marrying Zenith. When Ruiz divided up father's belongings after his death, the sword went to Norn. Aisha got the other one, but Ruiz took it back straight away, saying that he needed to use it for battle. I don't recall. I guess, yeah, she technically did take the other sword, question mark? I think it did talk about that. The armor was in Mother's room. Whenever anything bad happened, Norn prayed to the sword. Her father didn't follow Mill's faith, and he lived a life that faithful people sneered at. But Norn loved him. If he was still alive, she'd probably always be scolding him. Yeah. Even so, she could never dislike him. He tried. He really did. But just because you try doesn't mean things will work out. Not for her big brother. Not for herself. Not for anyone. She thinks that's why she never stopped loving Paul. She prayed for her father today too. I'm going to get married, father. It was less of a prayer than an announcement. Her big brother said that he often went to father's grave to tell him things that happened, even though he was super busy. So Norn was amazed by his faith. Big brother is doing everything for me in your place, father. Up until now, I'm sure I've been a burden to him. But despite that, he's still working hard as he can, without complaint. I can't begin to express how grateful I am of him. I so like seeing this perspective. After so long of kind of wondering why Norn kind of goes along with him so much. I mean, again, a great example is of that whole segment in A Journey of Two Lifetimes. Norn go home. Okay, going home. Why does she so accept everything he says anymore? Because it's so in stark contrast to the initial experience that we had with her. Again, first impressions, hates him. This is the mean guy that beat up my daddy. And then after that, it's like, crap, now I have to live with him. I don't like this. I don't like being here. And then it shifts into, okay, she's a shut-in, and we find out that she feels like she's inadequate and that she'll always be compared to other people, Aisha and Rudy. They're so geniuses. But I think him kind of stepping in there and kind of trying to save her, and again, she sees Paul in him a bit. Sees a little bit of Paul right there standing in front of her. She accepts him. But there's still always this question mark of why does she always listen to him? Does she really like him and everything? Here we're finally seeing from her perspective, no, he's always trying his hardest for me. He's doing he's doing a good job, Dad. He's doing a good job. In your place, Dad. He's doing a good job. He's working as hard as he can for me. He's even taking time to go over there and tell you what's going on, even though he's super busy. And he's always trying to do his best for me. I can't begin to express how grateful I am to him. It's so good to finally see this perspective and see what she really thinks of Rudius. Because it feels like it's been so long since we had like a really good perspective chapter of her and her feelings of Rudius. Yeah, we had that one perspective chapter of her going to go be with Ruijerd, but not necessarily for Rudius. She had planned on announcing her wedding, but ended up talking about her brother instead. After their father died and their mother ended up the way that she did, Rudius couldn't keep an eye on Norn, so she couldn't help but wondering if he resented that responsibility. But now, she knew that wasn't the case. That's a lot of responsibility. Especially with Zenith, there's a lot of responsibility there. But again, a lot of that's Lilia. Lilia has been taking care of that. There was this memory that she had back before she could crawl properly. She was sure that she was competing with Aisha, though she wasn't sure why. Her mother was at the finish line naturally. Aisha beat her. She made it to Mother with incredible speed. Mother picked her up and told her that she was a good girl and how well she had done. When Norn saw that, she started crying. Her mother was so far away, she felt that Aisha had taken her from her, and Norn wouldn't be praised, so she cried. Surprised she remembers something this far back. I can't even imagine remember that far back before you could even crawl. I think this is probably just something that's just, it's a theoretical. I assume this was the case back then too. When she did this, her mother said, "Come on, Norn, I'm here." She waited until Norn reached her, then she made sure to praise her. Rudius was the same way. No matter how slow or stupid Norn was, he always waited. He was patient, and although he was sometimes flustered, he never gave up on her. It was his way of fulfilling Mother's shoes. God damn this chapter. I thought it was a later part that I get emotional on. I don't remember this part getting emotional when I was putting it together. The wedding preparations too. He took care of everything. If Father was still alive, she was sure that he would have handled it all. There might have been a little bit of a row if he hadn't liked Ruijerd though. Still, she was sure that when the time came for her to get married, he would have said, "Leave it to me." That was probably what it was like when their parents got married. Lost in her thoughts, Norn finished packing her room in no time. There had never been very many things in the first place. Without her belongings, it looked truly empty. Lucy or one of the others would probably take the room next. She thought it was tidy enough, so now all was left to do was move her things to Ruijerd's house. It felt like a dream for Norn. After admiring Ruijerd forever, she was going to marry him. She was full of jitters. It was like how Sylphie said it was for her. Before you start living together with a man, you feel a mix of nerves and anticipation. Ruijerd was much, much older than her, but after they got married, she would assume they would do just as Rudius and Sylphie and the others did. She learned how to do it in theory, but she never put it into practice. Would he be gentle? Would she be able to do it right? Her anticipation outweighed her nerves. She was full of excitement, and she was glad that she had told Rudius to go on ahead with the betrothal. And got that nervousness there. Obviously, a lot of nervousness there. A knock came at the door. Then Aisha's voice. "Hey, Norn, got a moment?" "Yes, what's the matter?" Can I talk to you?" Aisha came into the room, an uncomfortable expression on her face, and shut the door behind herself. This was unusual. It might have been the first time Aisha had behaved this way to Norn. "Why don't you sit down?" Aisha took a seat on the bed. Norn pushed aside the luggage and sat down in a chair. "So, congratulations on your marriage, Norn." "Wait, no, your engagement?" "Thank you." Now that Norn thought about it, when Rudius announced her marriage, lots of people congratulated her, but not Aisha. Yeah, I think there's a... I'd assume it was going to be a quick rush into jealousy. "It feels, strange that you're getting married." "You mean, you came here to say that?" "No, Norn, what's it like getting married?" Aisha kept averting her eyes, as if she was asking something that she wasn't supposed to. "What do you mean? Why are you going through with it?" Norn then recalled what Aisha said. "Why do you bother when you know you got no talent?" Ugh. Her sister never changed. Norn had come to realize that Aisha's words that seemed cruel when they were little were actually something else. She was good at everything, so she didn't understand how it felt. No, actually, Norn was being too generous. When they were little, there was probably some cruelty behind it. That's why Norn couldn't stand her back then. But lately, she gotten over it. When had Aisha stopped being unkind to her? Was it when she became student council president? Maybe it had been earlier. She wasn't sure when. But Aisha changed a lot since Lucy was born. I like this because this is a perspective of Norn that makes sense. Yeah, way back here, when they were younger, yeah. Aisha had this mentality that she was the redheaded stepchild, that she was this disgusting spawn of the family that shouldn't be there. The one who was born through the maid. She wasn't a true gray rat. So, of course, she always feels like she has to outdo Norn all the time. And there's probably this anger of why Norn gets the attention that she shouldn't. She's just as good. She's talented. She's got to make up for all that stuff. But yeah, I agree with Norn here. I think at some point they did establish that there is a side of it from Aisha's perspective where there is an element where she just can't understand. Linnea's whole thing there was a perfect example of that. When Linnea couldn't pull off things, it frustrated her. And she was having that frustration with a lot of people in the mercenary band. I can't understand why people are not good at things. And they get mad when I scold them and say they failed things. I don't understand why this is confusing to them. It's confusing to me. She can't understand when people are failures. It doesn't make sense to her. And Norm picks up on that. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. So maybe right here when she's asking why am I getting married, it could be an element that I don't understand. I don't understand why you would get married. Could it be? But you're a failure, why would you get married? Not likely. In the past that could have been the case, but not really. I'm not sure what to say. For one thing, this marriage serves a purpose. And I love Ruijerd. What do you mean love? It's like I just find myself wanting to be with him. And when I see him, I want to hold him. That sort of thing. I love Big Brother. Is that a different love? I'm not you, Aisha, so I can't say. I want to be held by Rudy. Does that mean I love him? I guess not. Aisha stretched out her legs, then flopped down on the bed. I just don't get it. Lady and Priscilla keep going on about marriage lately, saying I missed my chance, or how now I've waited this long. I just can't settle. Is marriage worth getting worked up about? I'm not sure. I mean, logically, I know I should want it, but it's not like everyone thinks this deeply about it, right? Aisha, do you not want to get married? I don't know. There isn't anyone you have feelings for? No. When I was little, I thought I'd marry Big Brother. But that's different somehow. But I can't even imagine leaving this house. Once again, with Aisha's perspective here, it's not that she sees Rudius that way. It's that she's always figured she'd be here. And again, I think that's just so sadly a side effect of what her mother did to her. Her mother drilled in her head, this is what you're going to do, 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 and it's only here recently, when she finally reunites with Rudius, that he's kind of slowly kind of pushing her in a different direction. He's still kind of accepting that side of her, not completely kind of throwing her out and saying, hell no, girl, it's never going to happen, so get the hell out of here. You know, go live on your own because this might be a bad thing. He still accepts her in there, but put that boundary up there, and eventually she's going to realize that this is not really what I want, but she's been molded that way, and it still feels like that's just natural for her to be there. Aisha had been glued to Rudius ever since she was little. Norm first met her in Millis, a little while after father got back on his feet and started a respectable job. I'm guessing that means the idea of working on the whole displacement stuff, incident, group, respectively, after being drunk for a while there. That feels weird. That feels weirdly rote. Norn hadn't been able to think of Aisha as her little sister back then. She heard about people getting married to a partner who had already had children from her friends in the dormitory, and she wasn't sure if it felt sort of like that. It didn't help that Lilia treated Aisha less like a little sister and more like a junior maid. Yeah, again, a lot of what Lilia did sort of affected everybody in some way. And again, that affected Aisha even more so. When did Norm begin to see her as a little sister? Maybe it was when they went to school together in Millis, or during their journey to Shariah with Ruijerd and Ginger. Either way, by the time they began living together in Shariah, she was her little sister. Interesting that she already made that connection before then, before they even arrived there. I mean, it seemed like they were just so at odds with each other the moment they arrived there. There was just this anger. I think one of the first chapters is literally how they're at each other's throats. How do you feel right now? Happy. Happy? How so? It's hard to put in words. I guess it feels like I'm not worried about anything. I know that it won't be perfect, but without question, there'll be good things. As she finished speaking, Aisha sat up and stared intently at her. That's happiness? I mean, I feel like that pretty much all the time. That means you're happy all the time, doesn't it? Aisha fell back on the bed again. It's like it doesn't make any sense. No, I don't think so. I'm kind of envious. It feels like I finally lost to you at something. It wasn't a competition. Nope. I lost. I think I lost to you, Norn. How goofy. That's what I was thinking earlier. Is like, oh, it's a jealousy thing. She beat me at something. She achieved the thing that I haven't gotten achieving yet. In all of Norn's life, she'd never beaten Aisha at anything. It wasn't just Aisha either. She'd never did especially well at school. Her win rate in mock battle magic tests was 45%, and even when she tried her best, her average test scores was around 80. She never got anywhere near the top of the class. If they were competing in something that Norn studied but Aisha hadn't, Norn might be able to win once or twice, but after 10 to 20 rounds, Aisha would win every time. She was clever. She learned fast, and she'd get straight to the heart of things. But now, she'd finally lost at something, and yet Norn didn't feel very pleased. Besides, it wasn't as though there was a competition. Norn wasn't trying to get married to beat Aisha. And that's a sad reality. I think Aisha sort of sees that because she doesn't understand what Norn's doing, so she just sees it as a competition. Whereas from Norn's perspective, she's like, I'm not competing, I don't really care. And it's not like she feels satisfied at that, because in the end, if it's something that Aisha wants, then she would hope that Aisha would get it. Hey Norn, what is it? After you get married, can I come see you still? Aww. This was unexpected too. It felt like Aisha was keeping her distance from Norn, though she didn't show it when she was looking after Rudy's children. It was just that when Norn was alone, Aisha never approached her or talked to her unless she needed something. Yeah, it's a big shock. I'd assume this is one of those cases where you don't really realize what you have until you're losing it. And now suddenly her sister's going to be going, and it's suddenly like, ow, wait, I was just feeling it hurts. Oh, I don't want Norn to leave. Yes, of course. If you have a baby, let me hold it, okay? I will. A baby. Norn had asked Sylphie all sorts of questions, although it was probably too soon to be thinking about it. She assumed it would happen one day, and she wanted to be prepared. Even now, Aisha looked after Rudy's children. Sylphie said that she was a great help. When Norn left the house, she'd have to raise her own children by herself. Yet another thing to worry about. Could she really manage? You don't know until you do it. Sylphie reassured herself she'd be fine, and Roxy fretted along with Norn. Edis would probably say they're just raised themselves, or something. Even so, Norn was worried. If anything, I'd be grateful if you teach me what I don't know about raising children. You bet. Thank you. Norn laughed. She was so glad that Aisha returned a smile. Aisha and Norn carried on chatting into the night. None of it was especially significant, just an endless stream of idle complaints that didn't reach any conclusion. The next day, Norn took her belongings and moved to Ruijerd's house. It hurts like this last-minute connection between the two of them. Like this last-minute connection. They're finally going to leave, and then suddenly they make this nice little conversation. Ugh. Damn it. Y'all couldn't connect before then? Damn it. Couldn't connect before then, though. Jump into Rudy's perspective. Norn and Ruijerd's wedding took place in the superb village, and was done in their style. On the night of the full moon, the villagers came bearing food. Then they all ate together to celebrate a new bride and groom. Rudy wasn't a villager, but naturally, he brought a plate of food, and the whole family. They were Norn's family. He wasn't taking no for an answer. Not that anyone tried. Actually, they were very welcoming. Lilia and Aisha made the food. Yeah, they're going to be very welcoming to Rudy's family. One, because they're afraid of Rudius, but two, Norn was the one that sat on Atop's throne, so they're going to respect. Lilia and Aisha made the food. Aisha seemed to have seriously complex feelings about Norn's marriage. Ever since it was decided, Rudy had seen her get in trouble with Lilia countless times for loafing on the sofa, lost in thought. Again, it's a trigger point. You see somebody around, you get married or whatever, it suddenly makes you realize that. Maybe I should think about this. That's why a lot of people get together during weddings. And a few days after the wedding, Aisha and Norn stayed up all night talking. He wondered what it was about. Anyways, Aisha probably had a lot in her mind. It wasn't like she was unhappy for her sister or anything. In making the food for the wedding, she hadn't been stingy. If anything, she was giving it her all. She hunted down ingredients from Millis and Asra to make an enormous fruit cake. No one's gonna let that. Rudius wasn't sure if the Zepurds liked sweet food, but Roxy gave her seal of approval. Then again, Roxy had a sweet tooth. It's like, Rudius is like, is it good enough? I don't know. And she's over there like, Roxy's seal of approval. Just let her eat it. Don't have some guy bug her about casting spells. This was the happiest day of Norn's life. The whole family came. That meant not only Aris, Sieg, and the little kids, but also Leo, Dillo, and Bite. They even brought Bite? You like unwind Bite from a damn freaking fence to bring him over? Orsted wasn't family, but he was the one who set up the match, so he observed in the quiet corner. I was wondering about that. I'm like, you better have Orsted there, and he's over in the corner just watching. There's a smile on his face. Rudy also invited Norn's friends and Shariah, and they enthusiastically accepted. When Norn's junior school friends from the student council learned that she was getting married, they bowed to Rudius and begged for an invitation. Rudius did feel a little sorry for the huddle of trembling humans surrounded by supers, but once they saw how happy Norn looked, their nerves began to settle. By the time the feast had begun, they were lining up to pour Norn drinks. She really did look happy. When she was at home, she usually looked sulky. For the entire time that she was sitting beside Ruijerd, she beamed, albeit a little shyly. Every now and then, she would look his way, and he, sensing her gaze, would look back, at which Norn would blush and look down, wearing a traditional bridal garment that the superb women had made. With a table full of food before her, she glanced at her groom and blushed. So sweet. As a surprise, Rudius also had a mill-style ceremony slotted in partway through, which went over great. He had Norn and Ruijerd change into pure white. When they came back, Cliff, the surprised guest, stepped forward to give a mill-style blessing. Ruijerd put the necklace Rudius had gotten ready in advance around Norn's neck and knelt, at which she, blushing furiously, placed a clumsy kiss on his forehead. Yeah, just like Cliff and Elalace's wedding. Through the whole thing, Norn looked stunned, but when everything wrapped up, she wore a tearful smile. She was really, truly happy. I like it that he slipped that in there again. Might as well get him to spoil me one more time. Norn looks pretty, huh? Aisha said. Whether it was the clothes making her beautiful or her happiness, Rudius wasn't sure. Aisha gazed at her sister with envy. That'll be you one day, Aisha. No, it won't. Ouch. She spoke curtly, as though she wasn't planning on getting married. Rudius personally wanted to see Aisha off too, just like he had Norn. But marriage wasn't all there was to life. He didn't mind if she stayed at home. Still, Norn was a bride. It was enough to get Rudius all choked up. When he first met her in Millis, she was tiny and ready to fight. He never met her before Millis. She's joking. That's not what it means. It's like the first time I ever met Norn, she was in Millis. Apparently she was born there from Zenith. There was even a point when she holed up in her dorm room after starting school. As a kid, people thought of Norn as a handful. No good, clumsy. Then she joined the student council, carried out her duties as a president commendably, and won over admiration of the junior students. And now she was married. Reese's nose was suddenly stuffy. Dear Paul, Norn has grown up into a good and beautiful girl. Are you watching? No way you wouldn't be, right? If not, hurry and get over here. Damn it! I honestly thought they were going to do the whole thing where suddenly he looks over and I thought I saw Paul. I thought I saw Paul over there next to Zenith. Bad mental image. Bad mental image. Bad mental image. Don't cry, big brother. Crying? Me? Yes, you. Rather than just sobbing in a corner. Damn it! I can't recover! I can't recover! Rather than just sobbing in a corner, go talk to Norn. The guests were lined up to give their congratulations to the newlyweds. The superb didn't have a custom like that, but maybe Cliff had said something. Norn beamed as she thanked them all. It was joyful. Rudius wondered if it was really alright to barge in there, like he'd ruin it. You don't think Norn will be annoyed? Not a chance. I don't know. Well, I do. Will you come with me, Aisha? No reason why not. It wasn't like he was worried about Aisha. He was worried about himself. He was absolutely going to sob. He was going to cry on the happiest day of Norn's life. He'd be bawling a snotty mess, and everyone would point and say Norn's brother was a crybaby. Would that be so terrible? Yes. Just the other day, Ruijerd told him not to cry. I don't think that's the same point there, dude. He at least wanted to go home first and cry in Sylvie's lap. Okay, let's go then. He couldn't miss out on this moment with Norn. So with the others in tow, he approached her. When Norn saw them, her lips went tight for a second. It says she's so grown up. She's so grown up. Almost at once, she was smiling again, but it seemed like maybe she wanted to say something. Rudius was scared. While he wavered, Sylvie overtook him and went to Norn first. Congratulations on your marriage, Norn. Thank you, Sylvie. It's work, but it's rewarding. Be sure to talk through your troubles and try your hardest. I will. Sylvie smiled at Norn, then stepped aside. I'm gonna get through this. Next was Edis. Congratulations, Norn. Thank you, Edis. Don't slack on your storage training, guys. Ruijerd's tough, but it's your job to have us back. I love Edis. I'll be sure to remember. Edis nodded with satisfaction, then stepped aside. Damn it, this freaking chapter is just tearing me up. Next, she went over to start to say something to Ruijerd. I forgot about this part. Then she went over and started saying something to Ruijerd. It sounded like If you don't protect Norn, I'll break you. That was their Edis. Roxy came forward from behind Edis. Congratulations, Norn. Thank you, Miss Roxy. No need to keep calling me that, Miss. Well, all right. It's the last time. So, let me say one thing as your teacher. When you marry someone from a different race, I expect people around you will have more thoughts on it than you yourself. Ignore them. Just go on as usual, and everyone will accept you eventually. God damn. Speaking from experience, thank you, Miss Roxy. And that's true. She's going to go through the same thing that Roxy did. Roxy, as a demon, is living with Rudy as a human in a human city, in a human world. And she's dealt with this discrimination her entire life, being that she's been traveling around the world even before she met Rudius. And now, Norn's in the same position. She's now in the middle of the suburb village, and she's going to be living there. Yeah, she's in a human kingdom, human and ogre kingdom, but still. It's more of the aspect of people seeing them side by side. It is totally a discrimination thing. After Roxy came Lilia and Zenith. Oh, goddamn, I forgot about this. Son of a bitch, no! This was the part that got me, and now I'm finally getting here. God damn it. After Roxy came Lilia and Zenith. Congratulations, Miss Norn. Lilia, mother, thank you. I think I may not have been a positive presence in your life, Miss Norn. Oh, damn it, dude. All those times that Aisha made you unhappy, that was all my fault. Surprised we're getting into it now. Jeez. Could have talked about this a long time ago. Don't say that, Lilia. God damn it, this entire line. I'm not going to be able to get through it. Don't say that, Lilia. You've been another mother to me. Aisha is my little sister. Yes, there was some bad things, but that was just life. It wasn't because of you, Lilia. You're too kind, Lilia hiccuped. As she stood there all proper, Lilia immediately burst into tears. Literally everything seemed to make Lilia cry these days. Zenith patted her, making soothing noises, but after a while, she turned her attention to Norn. Yuck. Mother, Zenith was silent. With a small smile, she took Norn's hand in both of hers, holding it tenderly, as though it was something precious. Damn it. Mother, Norn stammered. Zenith said nothing, but it was impossible to mistake her feelings. Tears began to pour down Norn's cheeks. Just like that, Rudius knew her expression before had been her holding back tears. The moment she'd seen him, she was holding him. Mother, thank you. Thank you for everything. Norn was barely coherent. Like me? By the time it was Rudius' turn, her face was covered in tears and snot, even though it was her wedding, the happiest day of her life. Big brother. For the time being, he pulled out a handkerchief and put it to Norn's nose. Come on, big blow. I could do it myself. Norn protested as she snatched the handkerchief and blew her nose. She looked unsure what to do with it, so Rudius tucked it into his pocket, then faced Norn once more. Norn, congratulations. Big brother. Norn looked up at him, her mouth set in a line. He wondered what to say. He could have sworn he had something ready, but his head was empty. Big brother, thank you for everything. Right now, I'm so happy, and it's all thanks to you. I know it is. This whole chapter, dude. No, don't thank me. It was Orsted. Orsted's over in the corner. Yes. Joking. She told him she was happy, but that was clear just by looking at her. No, it's because you've done your best. I haven't done anything. Even the wedding was all thanks to you. Norn, if you hadn't been doing your best, Ruijerd would never have asked for your hand. To Ruijerd, you were either a child or a warrior. If she hadn't changed, he would have never seen her differently. Still, thank you. Norn looked at him like she might cry again, so he reached into his pocket for the handkerchief. Just as he realized it was all damp, another one was suddenly held out from beside him. It was Aisha. He took her handkerchief and wiped away Norn's tears. Norn, yes? I don't know what to say. And everyone's already said the important stuff, so there's not much left. Yes? There'll be struggles and pain ahead for you. But this hurts because it feels like he legitimately feels like a proxy for Paul. There'll be struggles and pains ahead for you, but do your best for me too. To always be happy. Oddly enough, Rudy didn't cry. He was sure that he would. Just like before, he started choking up. But the tears themselves had retreated. Standing there right in front of Norn, all they felt was pride. I'm surprised you could pull that off, dude. I am surprised you could pull that off. I was expecting him to do like a... Because I had to be like, Paul, no, don't show that emotion. I will. Norn's tears stopped, and she beamed at him. And so, Norn was married. Their height difference was almost as big as their age difference. But it seemed they were surprisingly compatible anyways. A year later, Norn had a baby. She was Norn's spitting image, but with green hair, a cute tail, and a gem on her forehead. A superb girl. They named her Lucilia Superdia. The face Orsted made when he heard it was terrifying to behold. He was smiling. It's my friend. My friend. It's our friend. It's Orsted's friend. The name Orsted remembered, and the name Norn and Ruijerd had chosen were the same. Oh my gosh, I legit did not think I was going to get through that. One, because it was going long, but two, the fact that that was killing me. That was literally killing me to read that. Oh my gosh. But we made it, chat. We made it, chat. Oh, what a amazing start for Redundancy. Somebody at some point told me don't bother with Redundancy. Go to ODT. Go to this. I kept seeing a few people that were downplaying Redundancy like this wasn't worth it. And I think I got a hint at some point, some people saying that it's because the people that don't like the character stuff, they don't like this stuff. They want the cool, like, insights of the world and the battles and the dragons and stuff like that. And again, at some point I realized, oh, so this is what I want, and everybody else wants that. Okay, good eatins. And this first part has been good eatins. Oh my gosh, dude. And I see the next thing is Lucy and Dada, so here we go again. I can't imagine what this next part's gonna be, but I can only imagine based on the cover. Cute little Lucy being happy. I realized earlier, because somebody told me I can look at the cover, you got Edis, Sylphie, Lucy, Rudius, looking kind of upset, by the way. Even Leo and Lilia and Zenith. No Roxy. Where's Roxy? Where's Roxy? I don't like that. Where's Roxy? I know she's there later because we have the later stories, but anyways, phenomenal first Mushoku Monday for the Redundancy Reincarnation. I'm super happy. This is literally like so far pretty damn S tier. This is already pretty damn S tier, so I'm excited for more. I'm kind of upset that it's as small as this is, but we'll see. But anyways, hey chat. Is everybody tearful out there too? Are you all eating up my tears? Are you all enjoying my suffering right now? I hope you're all tearful too. But I hope you guys enjoyed this Mushoku Monday. As always, we're gonna call it there. Obviously, it's gonna probably take a while to edit. This is actually running longer, but that's fine. I'm kind of glad that I got this kind of be one kind of enclosed story in Mushoku Monday. But hope you guys enjoyed as always. If you did, make sure to hit the like button before you leave. Don't head out of here before you hit that like button if you're just kind of tuning in after I talked about it earlier. But I greatly appreciate your guys' support, all your kind words. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for supporting me through this journey. And yes, like always, greatly appreciate everybody support channel monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships, all that stuff. You guys mean a great deal to me. It's always an extra connection to you all coming together to suffer together, to see our little Nornal go off and be a woman and become a bride. Getting all emotional with that stuff. But anyways, until the next Mushoku Bunny, until next week, y'all take care. Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another trek to the Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation novel series. We are on Redundancy Part 1, or Volume 1. I don't know what you call it. Redundancy Reincarnation Volume 1. Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another trek to Mushoku Tensei. At minimum, anyone who wanted to marry Norn had to take a punch from Arius. And we're just talking about Norn's lover life? Fear not, Norn. Rudy shall defend your virtue.